Hello and welcome back to the Westbic Startup Podcast. My name is Chantal Costello and today I'm joined by Sibling entrepreneurs Niamh and Ruairi Dooley, co-founders of BiaSol. BiaSol uses brewers' spent grains to create a nutritional food supplement which can be used for baking, added to soups and sauces, or even for pancakes or porridge. You're both very welcome to our podcast and we are so excited to have you on today. So firstly, would you like to explain to our listeners exactly what BiaSol is all about, what you do and why it's important?
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Chantal. I suppose BiaSol started as more of a lockdown project between myself and Ruairi to keep us connected through Zoom. And the two main things we wanted to focus on for that particular project was creating a nutritious food source and to do it in the most sustainable way. So we looked at a few ideas, but it ultimately led us to looking into brewer spent grain. So when I started doing my desk research on brewer spent grain, I realised it was so high in nutrition, really high in fibre and high in protein, and there's B vitamins and minerals and loads of good healthy stuff. So that ticked one box, and then the next step was to reach out to craft breweries around Ireland. And we're quite lucky. There's plenty of them scattered throughout the Midlands. So I kind of just picked up the phone, floated the idea around. Everyone seemed supportive of the idea and said, "Look, I've grain there. Come along and do some trials to start off with." So once we started the trials, then I brought them the grains home and put them in the kitchen oven, and Mum was complaining about the smell at one point, but we successfully did that trial.
The smell, and the other thing was the electricity bill because the oven was on for 9 hours.
Yeah, so I quickly moved out there. One of my other friends offered to use his commercial kitchen, so I did another test batch there, and that went well. So then we gave samples out to chefs and bakers, and the feedback was really good, especially on the taste and flavour it added, and obviously the sustainability story as well. So I think
just on that, I think the kind of thing that kind of we were a little bit in the dark about starting off was around the taste, because neither myself or Niamh have culinary backgrounds, and we probably underestimated how important taste is in food in general, just from never worked in that sector before. So we went off, as Niamh said, to do something nutritious and sustainable, but the great thing about the grains is that when we gave them out to chefs and bakers, they were really inspired by the taste, and they're like, wow, I haven't got flavor like this before. And that was a big tick, tick the box. So that's partially why we made sure we had an omni-channel approach then with the products, that we could go into wholesale and retail.
Brilliant. So in terms of the idea generation, you were almost seeking out a green project. What was the appeal of going down a sustainability route?
Well, I lived in Canada for 2.5 years. And while I was there, I worked with a vegan community on a food truck and then in a restaurant. So I just spent a lot of time with them and just picked up a lot of how they live their day-to-day lives. So kind of opened my eyes to you can do little tweaks in your daily lives. And I think I came back just living a more sustainable life personally. And then obviously with the facts of our population growing and food demand expected to increase by 60% by 2050, so our food systems are going to be under strain in time. So it's kind of nearly, what can we do now for the future and for maybe our children or our grandchildren, So I think in the back of our mind, that was one good reason why we should make or work towards a sustainable business.
Yeah, I think for me, again, coming back from Australia, and that you could see the emergence of zero waste stores, and there was only one down the road for me, a 10-minute walk, and I started to get my nuts and my kind of seeds and all of that down there, and just it's just a better way to do things. And that's, by the time I was leaving, it was even pilot schemes are going out in some of the biggest supermarkets in Australia to do the same thing. So we need to start thinking differently. And when you can, usually Australia and the US are a little bit ahead of us with new initiatives. So we just thought we had to do something different as well.
And then when I came home as well, I noticed that there was one in Mullingar. So I think the Irish people are, shout out to the Refills store in Mullingar, but just like obviously the Irish population are coming around, and like things are beginning to shift, which is really good to see. And especially if multiples start bringing it in as well, you know, it'll give the everyday consumer like an opportunity to live like that as well.
Yes, of course. Just there, you mentioned the scarcity in terms of food demand. The scarcity of wheat and consequently flour is a major problem at the moment due to the crisis outbreak involving Ukraine and Russia, with Ukraine being a large wheat producer. Do you see this as a risk, or could your product be a plausible solution to combat this problem?
Yeah, like I suppose a lot of people were coming to us to start going, oh, is this when Ukraine, the crisis kind of broke out, it's like, oh, is this going to be trouble for you guys? You know, will the breweries, you know, find it hard to source their malts? You know, will beer production slow down? But you know, from what we can see right now in the market, that's not really a risk. Like some of the breweries we work with, for example, grow their own barley in their own fields, so they have a steady supply. Some of the other barley a lot comes from the UK and other parts of Europe or the US. So we don't see there's a problem for us specifically. We actually think there's an opportunity more broadly in terms of food security. Is that if you look at, say, bakeries, they're the ones that are feeling the pinch. I think Ukraine is about 33% or something of the wheat supply in Europe. And, you know, they're going to have to start thinking differently now. And we have, you know, sustainable ingredients that you can reduce your overall flour content, and you can add our ingredients to bring out, you know, flavor and nutrition. So I think that's an opportunity that we can capitalize this year.
Great. So what other challenges have you faced then in terms of implementing sustainable practices in your overall business?
I think packaging is a nightmare for every business owner out there. There's just a lot of challenges. First of all, like, it has to be fit for purpose. So we've quite a fine ingredient when we mill it down. So, you know, you need something very secure and airtight, and, you know, so you don't have dust going around everywhere. But yeah, that was one thing. Obviously, we need to do it in the most sustainable way and want to do it. So I suppose there was pouches that were compostable, but when we looked at them, they were in China. So we were kind of weighing up the pros and cons of bringing something sustainable but having all the air miles. So obviously we try to look at what's available in the island of Ireland. So like, look, your choices are limited, but you kind of just have to weigh up the pros and cons for your own business.
Yeah, well, I suppose what we did specifically is when we designed our super milled grain package, like, sustainability had to be there. So we made sure that, you know, the cardboard we sourced it came from FSC kind of forest that's accredited. It's a sustainable source of cardboard. We looked at the inner bag for our box because, as Niamh said, it's fine particles. We did not want to go down plastic, and luckily enough, we found a solution called NatureFlex. So our inner bag looks like plastic, feels like plastic, but it's actually made from wood pulp. So it home composts and it's organic. So our packages don't leave any waste or trace on the planet. So that was important to us. And then I suppose the other thing then is the outer boxes. We always say, like, you know, to some customers, be like, oh, they get funny sized boxes or funny branded boxes when they order, even online, or some of our B2B customers, because we go around to the businesses and we just take their leftover boxes. So we just bring the van around and go, we'll take all your boxes. That way, you know, they don't have to bring them out and stamp them down and put them to recycling. We just take them, use them, and send them out.
You get another life cycle. So yeah, that circular economy is in flow again.
Yeah, I suppose we're programmed like that at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. A very innovative way of doing it. What advice would you have for other companies who want to adopt more environmentally friendly business practices, but they just don't know where to start?
Yeah. definitely reach out to, like, the agencies in Ireland as a starting point. They've been instrumental for us and us kind of getting to where we've been. There seems to be a mentor with expertise under every kind of division, or so that would be my first advice. Talk to your Leos, talk to your Enterprise Ireland, your Westpicks. They're always there to help.
Yeah.
And then I guess you gotta have to have the motivation as well. Like there are solutions out there, but unfortunately they're not like well advertised or well known, but they do exist. You just have to put the effort in and you'll find them.
Yeah, I think as well, just from a personal point of view and then into business, like just pick one thing to maybe focus on. Because if you go, I want to turn my business completely green, like it's not going to happen. You have to start in one area. If that's your packaging, if that's your mode of transport, so yeah, just pick one thing and get that right, and then move on to the next and just set goals. And yeah, use the supports that are there, definitely.
So what key supports have you availed of then in your journey so far?
Back at the start, I started on the New Frontiers program when we just literally were working on a project together. Like it was very concept idea stage. So I did phase 1 and then got on to phase 2 and 3. And that was really shaping the business model and our ideas. So that was really good help. So that was with New Frontiers, Enterprise Ireland and AIT. And then after that, I suppose we were getting support from our local enterprise offices.
Yeah, so we got a Leo feasibility grant then. And then we had to we had to close it out really quickly, because then obviously around the same time we were applying for the competitive start fund with the help again of Westpic.
Yeah.
And you were successful in that, so we wrapped up the Leo fund and then moved on to the competitive start fund, and we've drawn down all of that now, and now we're in the situation where we're an Enterprise Ireland client, and the next bit of funding we're looking at is leader funding, because we qualify because we're based in Tullamore, so we're under still technically rural, so we have the leader fund. And then we're actually on. We've applied to and been accepted on the FoodWorks program, which is an accelerator program specifically for food companies and supported by Enterprise Ireland, Teagasc and Board BIA. So we are
kind of availed of everything.
Yeah.
So we highly recommend, because we wouldn't be here where we or how we've grown either without all
But
that
I think
support.
it's funny, because I've talked to a lot of people now in business, either startup or even a little bit more mature than us, and a lot of people haven't gone down that road, and some of them say, geez, they just don't even know they exist. And then other people are, I think, afraid of writing a few forms or maybe doing a pitch presentation or something like that. But like anyone I meet, I always tell them that you really should talk to them, because the supports are really, really amazing, to be honest. I don't think they exist in other countries as well as they do in Ireland.
No, that's what I was going to say. It's a shame that more companies, especially startups, don't realise the supports that are available, because I think it would help them to reach that level of acceleration much faster, like you guys have, and it's benefited you obviously enormously, along with your hard work and dedication to the cause. You mentioned that you dream of a zero waste world. So what does that look like to BiaSol?
So for us, I suppose our vision that we're working towards is that, all kind of spent grain, be it brewers or distillers in Ireland, I mean, there's tons and tons of it, like maybe there's approximately, say, 2,700 tons a week produced in Ireland, all of that to be upcycled, and, feeding the population, giving more fibre back in the diets, along with taste. But to get there, it's going to be a long journey. And I think for the part of the zero waste that we're already looking at is the other byproducts that come from taking that resource. So that when we take brewer spent grain, it's quite wet, and our whole process is around how we can get it to a dry state. So that water that comes off, we're already running projects that looks at the byproduct of a byproduct. So we'll have a complete zero waste facility. And yeah, we've some interesting results and potential customers for that already.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and then that's exactly it. But the long term vision, like I'd like to keep my ears out for like any other byproducts or waste products that like could potentially be upcycled. Like it's a huge growing trend. It's especially in the United States. So there's a lot of interest in it, and I think that's just coming off like, you know, climate change and the growing population. So yeah, anywhere we can look at it into other resources and other waste streams, like that's what we're about really. And then obviously with the refill stores and everything like that coming on board, like ideally when we first started Super Milled Grains, I said, oh yeah, we'll just sell it in the refill stores, like in an ideal world, and have no packaging, and that's what we wanted. But we said we can't really survive just doing that yet. But in a couple of years, it might be more achievable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received or that you'd like to pass on to another starting entrepreneur?
I have a good one from one of our mentors. She said, it's not a no, it's just not now.
Yeah. I like Niamh says that and kind of laughs, but I'm actually usually the one on the road and the sales dude that gets told no every single day. So like, if I hadn't heard that from her, like maybe I've already given up. But yeah, it's you just kind of gotta just deal with the no's and just like really just have a way of accepting them. The only other advice I suppose I give is just be prepared for the roller coaster, because there's no other way to describe it. You go from one day of maybe having your biggest contract or your biggest sales day today and you'd feel like you're on top of the world, to the next day like your production process running into an issue or a customer complaint, or you realize that maybe, you know, your funding runway isn't as long as it should be, and you're like at the bottom of it all, like within a couple of hours of being on top, and it's just like that,
the highs and lows
every single week. Week in, week out. So it kind of works, I suppose, for me and Niamh, because like I reckon I'm the more emotionally kind of stable one. So the con of that is Niamh, when we do have a big win, Niamh's like, oh, you need to celebrate more. I'm kind of like, don't.
I'm like tipping him on the shoulder, like, you know, this is a big deal, like, are you not happy? And he's like, yeah, like it's grand, but I have to focus on this now. I want to go for a craft beer or something.
That's brilliant. And you're expanding at the moment, is that correct? You're hiring a team?
The team's getting big now. Luckily for us, I guess, I don't know the exact reason, but I'm pretty sure why the team's getting bigger quicker is because we have people reaching out to us for internships, because they believe in the vision and they believe in the mission we're trying to achieve. So we've got 2 interns already working for us, one that's studying public health, and she's helping with a lot of research around nutrition and trying to educate the everyday consumer about the benefits of eating the super milled grains. We have a French intern that's started as well, and she's has background in food science and marketing, so again going to help in the marketing sphere. We have a culinary intern that's starting in May. So she's going to help us develop some recipes that, you know, the ideal way is just like with a gastro pub that's maybe serving a craft beer, we can give them a menu and how they can use the grains into their food and pair them. So that's a little project we're working on with her. And then we have another intern starting for the summer as well, in marketing as well. So like we're getting a team of interns, and then we've hired a full-time production person as well. So the idea is to scale up the production team first, and then free up me and Niamh to kind of continue to grow the business.
That's fantastic. And Niamh, I think congratulations is in order as well. You recently were shortlisted for PwC Woman in Business, is that right?
Yeah, for the startup category. Yeah, thanks very much.
Congratulations. That's brilliant. That's such an achievement. So we'll be excited to see how that goes. But I suppose we might just let the listeners know where the best places that they can find you, and then we'll finish up with the quick fire round.
Yeah. You can find us in pretty much all the best independent Irish health food stores, all the good ones. We have about 45 store listings at the minute. So if it's not an independent health food store, it's probably an independent grocer. And we're spreading across the country in that category at the minute.
But to find those listings, you'll see them on our website on biasol.ie, and if you drop down to the bottom, we have a tab for stockists. So if you want to check out where's your nearest store that has super milled grains, that's where you'll find that. Yeah. And then our social medias are at BiaSol Foods. So that's for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Yeah.
And if there's not a store near you, you can just buy online at biasol.ie.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll just go through the quick fire round. So we might start with you, Niamh. We'll put ladies first, and then Rory, if you just want to come in with your answer afterwards. So just whatever firstly comes to mind. So would you rather work from home or the office?
Office.
Home.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Neither.
Both. It depends if it's weekday or weekend.
You just don't sleep.
Yeah.
Reading or podcasts?
Podcast.
Reading.
Time blocking or winging it?
You only just want to hear me say it. Winging it.
Yeah, I knew she'd say that. I'm time blocking for me.
Email or phone calls?
Oh, phone calls.
Phone calls.
No, that's the end of that. So that's brilliant, guys. I feel like we could talk all day, but I know you're very busy, so I may let you go. But thanks very much for coming on, and it's been a great episode.
Thanks a million. Thanks, Chantal. Thanks, Alison.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.